What happened to the culture representative program at Walt Disney World and when will it be back? Let's talk about it. Hey there, welcome back to my channel. It's Christina. A long time no see, my friends. So since you clicked on this video, you in some kind of way are interested in the culture representative program, the CRP at Disney World, and either you were looking for it, you wanted to apply, or something happened that sparked your interest and you don't know where to go, where to turn because the program has been canceled. So when will it be back? This video, I wanted to give you a little bit of a summary of what exactly happened. Well, we kind of all know why it was canceled, but when was it canceled? When I think it's going to be back, or what the future will hold for the program, or when they will be taking applications again. So feel free to use the comment section down below to post your questions or your comments, maybe your experiences, what happened, maybe you got canceled, maybe you got sent home unfortunately, or you were looking to apply for it and really can't find any information or anything like that. Just help yourself and comment. Now, as a quick disclaimer, just to be clear, I am not working for the Walt Disney World company, or nor am I in any kind of way affiliated with them. I'm just a former cast member, a former CRP. I did the program twice, so I kind of have a general idea what it takes to get the recruiting process going again and all that good stuff. So by no means whatsoever do I claim to have any kind of insider information. I mean, I wish I did, but I really don't, unfortunately. So everything I'm saying here in this video is either my personal opinion, or since this will be like a summary, I will post some of, or talk about some of the facts, some of the things that happened in the past, and you're more than welcome to do your own research and double check and see for yourself. Just letting you know. I really don't think I need to go into any details about what happened March 2020. I'm pretty sure we all know what happened. So we all ran back home, locked the door and threw the key out because everything was closing down. Corona was everywhere. Everybody was scared. Nobody knew what was going on. Everybody was all obviously afraid of public spaces, crowds, and to travel. By the way, in this video, I will be only focusing really on Disney World. Otherwise, this video would be probably like 30-40 minutes long, and since the culture representative program is only taking place at Disney World in Orlando, I'll be not covering what happened in Disneyland or any of the other Disneylands abroad, okay? Disney officially announced on March 12th that they will be closing down Disney World in Orlando, Florida. That made March 15th the very last day. The parks were still completely open to the public. And on March 16th, they were completely closed down. Everything was canceled, all reservations were canceled, and nobody was let in the parks anymore. And Disney announced that they will be closing down at this point the parks for only 2 weeks, which we know didn't happen, but that's not really Disney's fault. On March 14th, Disney unfortunately announced that they will be sending all of the CPs and culinaries and other program participants back home. Everybody had to leave. For example, college program participants are mostly US students that spend one semester working at Walt Disney World for school credits, or just for fun, but also other people who are doing the culinary program because they're in culinary school, and a couple of other programs were canceled as well. So everybody was canceled. From all of the programs were canceled, but the CRPs. They received the information on the 14th and had to leave housing by the 18th. A few friends of mine who were still working as CRPs in the German pavilion said that they were super upset for the CPs, but never really believed that it would maybe possibly technically also be their very last day. So Disney created some magic for the CRPs who had to leave. They got to ride attractions in their costume, for example. They had a special parade for them, and everybody was very grateful and sad to see them go on their last day. So it was, I guess it was a very, very scary but also very emotional time that all of the participants had to go through, including the CRPs, because they didn't know how long they would get to stay and if there would be next. So during that period, after the CPs and all of the other participants except the CRPs left and the parks were closed, Disney continued to pay the CRPs and asked them to wait for further information and further details. However, I know that a bunch of people, a bunch of CRPs were unsure what was going on, what will happen, and obviously their parents from back home were pressuring them to come back, because at this point this was not only happening in the US but obviously also in Europe. So a bunch of parents were super concerned and super afraid of what if their kids will be stuck in the US, because maybe they will stop flying people from the US back to their home country. So nobody really knew what was going on. So at some point Disney internally communicated, or at least that's what I was told by fellow cast members or CRPs who were still there at the time, that they were told in case they decide to end the program and go back home, they will be leaving and still having a good record card. So they would be basically leaving on good terms with Disney and technically still have the possibility to come back and be rehired. That's somewhat unusual because basically when you quit a program, you don't necessarily have a chance to come back and be rehired. So that was very important and obviously very kind of Disney to let them know that if they choose to leave during these uncertain times, that they could always come back and reapply because they left on good terms. So now everybody was playing the waiting game because everybody was observing on the news what was going on worldwide, if Disney was able to reopen or not, because remember they said that they will only close down for 2 weeks initially. However, on April 6th, all of the CRPs received a very sad message that they will also cancel the CRP program for now and they would have to leave and go back home. CRPs had to move out of housing by April 17th. Disney continued to pay them until April 18th. They also received a lump sum, kind of like a bonus, on April 9th, so they could afford all the quick and sudden travel expenses. At this point, Disney also did cancel all of the arrival dates for all of the programs until the end of June 2020. On April 2nd, there were also news that Disney would have to furlough their own domestic cast members. So furlough means they're not being fired, but they won't get paid, but they have to file for unemployment. However, Disney continued to pay them until April the 18th. And also Disney cast members still received benefits and health insurance through Disney. So around April 13th of 2020, Disney announced that they will be furloughing 43,000 domestic cast members, so cast members at Walt Disney World. Just to give you a quick idea, Disney World has roughly 77,000 cast members altogether, so they basically cut it in half. And also remember, a couple of thousand already left because Disney has so many different programs with the CP, CRP, and culinary program that probably easily already 1,000 or 2,000 people left because all of the programs were canceled. That was obviously a very insane and a very sad time for the whole Disney family, not only in Disney World, but also at Disneyland and all of the other Disney parks around the world. People were furloughed, their programs were canceled, and everybody was very unsure and things were just simply uncertain. Obviously, it was not only Disney and cast members, the whole world had no idea what was going on and what will happen next, and obviously also when possibly can tourism be back to normal and Disney World and the other Disney parks opening up. Obviously, after a lot of back and forth, Disney finally announced that they will be reopening Disney World on July 11th of 2020. So they didn't stick to the whole 14 days, which really can't blame them. At some point, Florida was the epicenter of Corona in the US, so Disney was closed for 117 days, or actually 116 because they opened on the 117th. But that's how long Disney World was closed. That's when people started working again, the park started to operate again, but obviously not to full capacity. A bunch of stores were still closed, a bunch of restaurants were still closed. Everything was not as it normally is. So now you're probably asking what happened to the German Pavilion and all of Epcot or the World Showcase since all of the internationals were gone. So Disney decided to move American or US cast members who were still with the company, to move them into the pavilions temporarily, but they didn't get to wear the traditional clothing and traditional outfits. That was still exclusive to people who actually did the program and people who actually are from that country and represent that country. So Disney had their US cast members wear the flag shirts and the white pants, which is the official costume every time there is like a festival or anytime there's like a supporting cast member or something. That's what they're wearing around World Showcase, and they used these cast members and these costumes just to cover like the basic stations and the basic stores and food spots. But for example, I know that at the German Pavilion they still had full-time German cast members were still there to still have at least a little bit authenticity in the beer garden, but everybody else was at that point domestic or from the US. But I guess that's what it takes to keep the show going again, right? All right, so now let's get to the tricky part, the question everybody has been asking: when is the CRP gonna be back? So obviously, as I mentioned before, I don't have any kind of insider information, but I do have some experience since I went through the CRP program twice. So I kind of have an understanding of what it takes for Disney to make things happen, or like recruiting people and stuff, and going through the whole visa and immigration process. So here's my thing, and I'm recording this on March 25th, so 25th of 2021, let's be clear. And I personally do not believe that the CRP program will be back in 2021, so I don't think it's going to be back this year. They might start taking applications again towards the end of this year, but I kind of personally don't think they will have internationals all the way back necessarily. So that's just my opinion. I think an exception could be everybody who's going to be working for a third party. So for example, if you are French or Italian, Chinese, or also Mexican, those are third parties that are hiring for Disney. So I don't know about their hiring process and when they can hire again. I've heard that like Chef de France for French Pavilion already considered or starting accepting applications again. But again, I can only really have a good understanding or idea when it comes to working for Disney and the actual CRPs. I also believe that, let's keep in mind, Disney has furloughed so many thousands of cast members in the US, and I think they should be rehired first because they really need that paycheck, and there are like way more of them than there is of us CRPs. I mean, mostly CRPs are young adults who use their gap year after like college or after high school to go abroad and work. So we technically came back home, still had a family, still had school and everything else for us waiting, but people, cast members in the US didn't. That was like their full-time job, that was like their career, so they need to be taken care of first. And then also, let's keep in mind, it's one thing for Disney to start the whole rehiring process, but then it's also another story when it comes to handing out and receiving visas, because every international needs a Q1 working visa sponsored through Disney. But if the government is not allowing or going to be denying all those visas because they're saying you cannot hire from abroad because we need to save our own people, plus you don't know the people abroad, for example, Germany has been doing a incredibly bad job of vaccinating their own population. I cannot speak for like France or Italy or other European countries. I just know that the UK are rocking it, are doing a great job. I know the US is doing a great job vaccinating their own people, but some other countries, Germany, super lacking, and we're super behind. And I would totally understand if the government would say we are not granting any Q1 visas to people from a country that is barely vaccinated. So I would totally understand that as well. And so it's so many different factors that you need to take into consideration, and one person cannot take all of them into consideration, actually. I do wonder how Disney, for example, will manage maybe the crowds during peak times like Christmas. I'm like, oh, maybe they need extra people for Christmas, but then they have so many domestic people. But then, I don't know. I mean, it's tricky. But one thing I'm 100% sure is that this culture representative program and all of the international programs will be back. International people will be back working at the World Showcase, because currently right now they have US cast members who are not wearing the traditional costume, but they have a flag shirt and white pants. Those cast members are covering the basic locations, the basic stations at World Showcase. So obviously at some point that was definitely not Walt's vision. He wanted for many people from different nations, like the perfect world, everybody's happy and healthy, have in one place, and that's what Epcot is about. So I do believe 100% international programs will be back. It's just a matter of time. I think it's going to be in 2021. And yeah, that's basically my 2 cents. Again, I'm just trying to come here from like a logic perspective of somebody who's done the program twice. If you're somebody who was affected by the cancellation or you got sent home, believe me, I really felt deeply for you last year in April. It must have been really terrible to go through that, and like all the uncertainty and all the pressure from back home, parents and families saying come over, come back. And I have friends who said, I'm not gonna leave, I applied so many times, I'm not gonna leave until they fire me, and then they had to fire them. But yeah, it is what it is. It is a tricky situation. Again, if you have any questions or want to share your story, please feel free to use the comment section down below and let us know and share your thoughts. What do you think? When will the CRP program or the CP program will be back? I would love to hear other opinions, because I'm 100% sure I didn't consider everything there is to consider, so please feel free. And I personally thank you so much for clicking on this video and spending your time with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.